Consistency is seriously one of the hardest things to master, whether it's sticking to a workout routine, whether it's sticking to eating healthy, or whether it's just showing up for yourself every single day. It's hard. As difficult as it can seem to be consistent, there are way bigger issues when we end up being inconsistent in our life for a long period of time. When you're inconsistent with your health goals, you never give your body or mind the chance to fully adapt to the changes that you're trying to make. This results in slow or no progress, and it makes you just feel like your efforts are wasted. For example, healthy average weight loss is about half a pound to 1 pound a week. But now, if you are inconsistent with your healthy habits, this can turn into you losing 1 pound every 2 to 3 weeks. And imagine how much that really extends this weight loss period. Inconsistency also breeds frustration. You start off motivated, but then every time you miss a workout plan or fall off your diet, it just chips away at your confidence. You actually start to doubt yourself and begin to question if you can even meet your goals. I have been there, done that. Without consistency, it's also nearly impossible to build lasting habits. When you're constantly starting and then stopping, these habits never actually reach a point where they become a part of your daily routine. And then this whole weight loss journey, this whole getting your dream body journey just seems that much harder because it just feels like you have to put in so much effort to take this daily action on yourself versus if you had been consistent with it for a little while, it just becomes a natural part of who you are. And then lastly, this is probably the absolute worst, is that inconsistency just leads to this cycle of highs and lows. You feel so great when you stick to your plan, but then one slip up just triggers so many feelings of guilt or shame, and it pulls you back into the unhealthy patterns. Guilt and shame are honestly the strongest emotions that really keep us stuck in where we are now. In almost all of my patients who I see are struggling with weight loss, guilt and shame are two really big, powerful emotions that have such a strong hold and grasp on them. Not only this, but when you are inconsistent, you're just constantly starting over. How many times have you told yourself, I'm gonna start again Monday, or I'm gonna start again next month, or I'm gonna start again next year? It's just so exhausting to be stuck in this cycle and loop of restarting, but never actually getting anywhere. Every time you tell yourself, I'm gonna start over, it's so hard to believe that things are going to actually be different this time because you haven't built any self-trust. You also end up feeling defeated because you see other people who are actually able to make progress and it seems like they've figured it out, but you're just here spinning your wheels. The constant stop and go nature of inconsistency leaves you feeling defeated. Ultimately, it leaves you feeling as if something is wrong with you. Every time you break your own commitments, you start to lose trust in yourself. You no longer believe in your ability to actually stick to anything, which makes being committed even harder. And when you lose trust in yourself, it's so hard to move forward and move through life in a confident way. Because if you can't trust yourself with your healthy habits, how can you trust yourself to make important financial decisions, important career decisions, important decisions in your relationship or with your family? Being stuck in inconsistency just adds to more stress and anxiety in your life because you just keep thinking about what you should be doing, but you're not actually doing it. This mental weight just adds on to that problem and it makes it that much more difficult to get back on track. And most importantly, yet most unfortunately, every time you fail to be consistent, it affects your sense of self-worth. You literally start to believe that you're not the type of person who can reach your goals, and it just continues to damage your relationship with yourself and your body. You might be thinking, why does consistency feel so hard? All of these things I just listed out, you don't want to be stuck in this. You hate feeling this way, yet every time you get up and try to stick to your healthy habits, it just feels so hard. One of the biggest reasons that consistency feels hard is because you failed in the past and now you have self-doubt. When you have failed in the past, it creates that fear that you will try again and it's just going to lead to the same outcomes. This fear makes it really hard to fully commit because you're kind of just expecting failure before you even started. After multiple failed events, you also just lose your trust in your ability to follow through with things. This lack of self-belief undermines your efforts, and it makes it hard to be consistent because you just doubt your ability to succeed at all. Past failures also fuel negative self-talk, which is just the most frustrating. So thoughts such as, I always mess up, I'll never be consistent, end up showing up in your mind. These thoughts essentially become self-fulfilling because whatever you believe about yourself, you will make come true, and it just creates a mental barrier that makes it even harder for you to stay committed to your goals. And then having failed before just also leads to impatience. Impatience is what destroys so many people's health goals. You do the healthy habits, you do all the things, but if you don't see the results fast enough, you just think that they're not working for you. In reality, you just haven't given it enough time. And then what happens? You stop being consistent with your habits, and lo and behold, you're stuck in this cycle of inconsistency. Another reason why inconsistency feels so difficult, and I know you're gonna relate to this, is because it just feels like something just always comes up. Whether it's a vacation, whether it's a work event, whether it's someone's birthday or a wedding or some sort of celebration or holiday or whatever it is, and it feels like just when you are starting to get back on track, some sort of event comes up, and before you know it, you have indulged and now you're off track. It's because when these random events just come up, they just throw you off your regular routine. And now your carefully planned schedule is out the window, and it makes it hard for you to be consistent. Also, if you haven't prepared for these events and you don't have a plan in place to be consistent regardless of what shows up in life, it's really easy to abandon your goals. Another reason as to why these events just throw us off track and cause us to be inconsistent is because of all or nothing thinking. So I remember whenever I used to go to wedding events, and brown wedding events are a week long. If you don't know this, there's a lot of eating of unhealthy food, a lot of partying. And whenever I would go to these events, all my healthy habits just chucked out the window. And I would just spend an entire week indulging and drinking and eating whatever, however, and oftentimes overeating. And by the end of the week, I just would feel so awful about myself. And this is because I used to have this all or nothing thinking. Like, if I can't be perfect with my health habits and goals, then I don't want to do them at all. And I know that you can relate to that, right? That feeling of if you can't stick to your plan perfectly, then what's the point of sticking to it at all? And then also when that event or vacation or holiday or whatever is over, it just feels so hard to get back on track because you've just lost so much momentum, even if it was just a temporary pause. Another reason as to why consistency can feel hard is because you have these uncontrollable cravings, and this is because of a dysregulated nervous system. When your nervous system is dysregulated because of chronic stress, your body actually craves foods that are high in calories, fat, and sugar. And it's because these are comfort foods that soothe us and help us feel good. Also, during moments of stress, your body almost shifts into this autopilot state. Also, in moments of stress, your body shifts into this autopilot state, and you just find yourself automatically reaching for junk food, eating it, and then being like, whoa, what the heck just happened, and what did I just do? It almost feels like you have zero control over these healthy habits. I remember when I used to really struggle with this, I kid you not, I would go to the grocery store, I would get an entire bag of chips, like a full bag. I'm not talking about snack size. You know those kettle chips? Love them. I used to go to the grocery stores, get a bag of kettle chips, get some sort of large sized, candy. And I don't mean just like one chocolate bar. I mean, those big packets of like mini eggs or M&Ms, and I would just eat them all. I remember this one time when I was in naturopathic medical school, this one whole week, I was so stressed out. And after my clinical shifts, I would go stop at the local convenience store and I would get a giant pack of M&Ms and eat them every single night for a whole week because I was so stressed. And what starts to happen is that once you start to give into the cravings, it reinforces the habit of turning towards comfort food to feel better. This essentially creates that cycle where stress and cravings feed into each other, and it just derails your consistency. And the worst part about all of this is that you just end up feeling helpless in your life, because when your nervous system is dysregulated, you feel like you have no control over things. And when you feel like you have no control over things, you blame yourself more, you feel even more frustrated, and then it just undermines your ability to stay consistent with your health goals that much more. And the last reason that it feels so challenging for you to be consistent is because you tell yourself that it's hard. When you constantly tell yourself that being consistent is hard, and yes, I know I started off this video saying that consistency feels hard, but that's because you tell yourself it is. You just start to believe it. This mindset just creates resistance because your brain doesn't want to do anything that's hard. When was the last time you're like, oh yeah, I'm so excited to do this hard thing? No. Never. Repeating it's hard in your mind also just drains your energy and motivation before you even begin. This mental barrier literally makes every step feel like a struggle. And it just amplifies the challenge and makes it harder to actually stay committed to your long-term goals. And when you focus on how difficult this process and journey is, you just end up focusing more on the obstacles and everything that's standing in your way versus looking at all the things that actually make it easy. This keeps you more stuck in the problem instead of actually looking for ways as to how you can overcome the challenges and make this journey be joyful for you. Lastly, when you constantly reinforce that something is hard, it actually undermines your confidence. Who said you can't do hard things? Who said that you are not a strong, capable being that can do anything that comes your way, that can overcome and persevere any challenge that comes your way? When you start to doubt your ability to succeed, it makes it easier to give up or avoid putting the actual effort that's gonna help you actually be successful. When you start to doubt your ability to succeed because you believe it's hard, it's easier for you to give up or actually avoid putting in the effort to be consistent. So how do you get out of this? How do you get out of this loop of inconsistency, this frustrating, awful cycle that we hate to be stuck in? And how do you actually make it effortless to be consistent with your health goals so that you can easily get your dream body and keep it for life? What this comes down to is your self-concept and how you see yourself. This is the piece that no one talks about in the fitness, weight loss, dieting world. Your self-concept is essentially how you view and identify yourself. It's essentially the collection of beliefs that you have about who you are. And these beliefs include your abilities, your traits, your self-worth. Your self-concept shapes how you behave. You act in alignment with the type of person you believe you are. If you see yourself as someone who always struggles or as someone who can't stick to things, then guess what? That is the belief about yourself that will become a reality, and that is what becomes a reality. Here is how your self-concept affects your consistency. Number one, it limits your efforts. If your self-concept is tied to inconsistency, to procrastination, to failure, then your actions are going to reflect that. You might start strong, but then what ends up happening is that over time, it's hard for you to maintain momentum because deep down, you don't believe that you are the type of person who stays consistent, because you believe that you are the type of person that's inconsistent, who procrastinates and fails. Number two, your self-concept can cause you to internally sabotage your goals. When your self-concept doesn't align with your goals, then you will sabotage your progress. Whether it's by telling yourself it's too hard, whether it's by falling into stress-induced cravings, or whether it's by giving up after setbacks. All of these are rooted in an identity that doesn't support success. Number three, your self-concept affects your identity and how you see yourself. You need to see yourself as someone who can be consistent. When your self-concept shifts to align with this new identity, consistency becomes easier because it's a natural extension of who you believe you are. Lastly, your self-concept affects your consistency because it will never allow you to meet your new goals if your identity doesn't align with that. The identity of who you believe to be will always fight against your new goals, and this will always lead to frustration and inconsistency. As you can see, this piece about self-concept is just so critical and so important. Before you invest in that new fitness plan or that diet plan or spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, whatever it is, on your health, it's so important that you take a step back and change your identity first. If you don't change your identity, all of that money and effort will go to waste because you will continue to pull yourself back to what you believe about yourself. I'm so excited because at the end of this week, I'm launching a course called Maximize Your Body, which is all about this. This course is designed to help you completely transform your self-concept from someone who struggles to stay consistent to someone who naturally takes aligned actions to meet their health goals. In the Maximize Your Body course, we're going to focus on how to shift your identity so that you can align your beliefs with your health goals. We're going to chat about how do you really rewire your mindset to embrace consistency to be a part of who you are and not something that you're struggling to do on an everyday basis. We will also talk about breaking out of old patterns of self-doubt, emotional eating, and the it's too hard thinking. And lastly, this course is going to teach you how to actually create long-lasting habits by starting with an internal transformation rather than quick external fixes. If you're someone who is sick and tired of being stuck in the same cycles, and this is your chance chance to make a lasting change. This course is launching at the end of this week, and everybody who enrolls in the early bird pricing is going to get a free group coaching call with me. It's going to be 60 minutes long, and this is your chance to show up live and ask me any questions that you have about this stuff. Stay tuned for that, and remember, your best body starts with your best mindset.